Today's video will be a tour of my character Bible Scrivener template. I decided to come back and create a new video with a new Scrivener template that will be free for you to download, and this will be a guide to how to use that template. So a quick introduction before we get into the meat of this video. I'm a six-figure romance author with a few pen names. I'm an Amazon best-selling author in my niche, in a couple niches actually, two of my niches, and I also have over 6 years of experience as an indie author. I wanted to create this video as a creative project to share lessons about writing, publishing, and marketing that I've learned over the years, things that I wish other people had told me. And I created this specific Scrivener template because character is, in a lot of ways, the most important part of your story. A lot of what we remember from good stories are the characters, and so I wanted to create a Scrivener template that goes really deep into character for anyone who is interested in getting better at writing characters and wanted a free resource to do that. So this will be a guide on how to use the character Bible. It should go pretty quickly and be pretty simple, but I wanted to stop through and explain everything for people who want to have a more in-depth Scrivener tour. I know Scrivener can be a little strange and complicated, so I wanted to be detailed about that. And of course, in the video description, there will be a free download to the character Bible discussed in this video. Now I want to quickly talk about the good and the bad of this video, why this is a bad idea to have a character Bible in Scrivener, and address some of the issues that skeptics may have with this particular template, especially because this is so detailed. You may think that this will stop you from writing or slow you down, and I say that this could definitely be true, and if this sort of thing bogs you down, don't bother sticking through this video. If you know that this will not work for you, it's okay. It doesn't have to work for you. This may also you may also have the critique that it gets you too attached to features of a character that may need to change for you to write a better story. I think there's also a risk of that as well, and I would use this character Bible as something dynamic that's always changing. I might use bullet points actually in a lot of areas, or visualize certain things rather than writing everything down. But there are multiple ways to use this, and when I explain everything in greater detail, I will get to that for you and explain the different ways you can use this. You may also think that this is too much work and you just don't want to do it. In that case, depending on your goals, that may be a good decision. Or a bad decision. It really just depends on what your goals are for writing. You may consider this a form of outlining and don't like outlining, and again, that's a matter of personal preference. Now, why is it a good idea for you to have this character Bible template? Good reasons to download this. If you struggle to get in touch with your characters and to really go deep, this can definitely help you get to that point. You can keep track of details if you're writing a long series or multiple series, and use it, like I said previously, just as a place to gather and take notes, which means you don't have to use all the features. You can save it as a template to use it again and again. You can also use this to help you write good scenes for a story and handle writer's block, and use it more as a tool to open up only when you're stuck. That's another way you can use this. You can also just use it to stay organized in general about different ideas for characters that may not even fit together. And you can also get new ideas for writing in general because of the different prompts. So if you have different characters but you don't know what story you want to tell, you can pick a character, pick one of the different prompts, and go into coming up with a story idea that way. You can also use this to take notes about characters and use it, especially if you're using Scrivener for iPad, although at some point I'll figure out how you can download this to iPad. I would consider this a desktop download from Dropbox, but you can keep this on the go, at least on your laptop or desktop computer, to take notes about different characters that you can fit together later. Video, I need to discuss quickly 3 books that were instrumental in creating this template. and are foundational for improving how you write characters. The first is The Art of Character, Creating Memorable Characters for Fiction, Film, and TV by David Corbett, and a lot of sections of my Scrivener template were inspired by parts of his book. However, I did not take everything from his book, so definitely check this out if you're interested in improving writing character. Next is The Emotional Wound Thesaurus, A Writer's Guide to Psychological Trauma by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. I also recommend this book and every book in this specific series. I will be referencing this book during my template tour, so I thought I would show it beforehand. The third is How to Write Dazzling Dialogue. This is very important to character, and while I don't dedicate a huge section to dialogue within the template, I felt like this was one of the 3 foundational books to improving character out there, so I would include it in the presentation. Now let's get straight into the template tour and we can get to the entire reason you came here. There will be some noises of me clicking around and possibly shuffling around because I do have to show you different things, so I will be clicking. Hopefully you don't find those sounds too distracting. I just wanted to talk about that. So in here, I have, because I am primarily a romance author, I targeted this to romance authors, but I think it would also work great for science fiction or any other genre with a few adjustments. In the main character Bible folder, I put a little readme, which I did not write anything in, so I'm going to write something now. And I'm actually going to delete this one because we don't need it. So you are not going to find that tab in the uploaded version, I don't think. So here in the character Bible, I've put 5 main characters, 2 main characters, again, because I write romance, and 3 supporting characters, because a lot of times in indie romance, you do not really want to get bogged down with too many characters. So what happens if you want to add another character because you're writing sci-fi or a long series? In the research tab, which I'm going to just rename the templates tab, and that'll be in the uploaded version, you're going to go to character template, right click, duplicate it. It's going to double click here, and then you can name it Sally Hemings. I don't know. I'm sorry that that's the first name that came to my head. And then you can, oops, don't drag it inside one, but just drag it here. And now you can have a character here that's brand new, that's not any of the others. So I'm going to remove that for the sake of the video, but that's how you would add new characters aside from the 5 that I came up with. Each of these will have the same tabs inside the folder. So these are identical, and you are going to have to fill each one out according to your character. So for the purpose of this video, we are only going to explore 1, the male main character, because all the others are identical, and I will just go over a little more how you can update and add more characters and add more tabs if you're interested in keeping track of different things. So when you get in here, you're going to want to insert a photo. So I'm going to try to insert a photo from file, just something that's random and kind of related. So I know I said male main character, so let's see if we can find one of those here. We're going to insert him, and then you can keep this inspiration photo in that segment and always go back to it. So you can reference the image whenever you need to see what the character looks like. This is the tab for superficial details. I put the main superficial details I like to keep track of for romance novels. However, some writers don't recommend adding a lot of physical traits when discussing characters. So I put this here, but I would consider this an optional tab depending on what type of books that you write. But for me, I like to get into the superficial details about the character, especially if, and here's a little tip, that those details can tell you something about the character. Do they have a mohawk because they are a rebel? Did they dye their hair blue for a similar reason? Does she have very long hair because she's from a traditional Amish background? I don't know. There are so many different ways you can make the characteristics say something about the character, so I thought including this tab would work just fine. The next tab is the emotional wound, and you will notice this as is a reference to the emotional wound thesaurus, which I talked about earlier in the video. The character's emotional wound can be connected to their big secret. I love exploring this aspect of building a character, and any visualizations or notes about the character's emotional wound would go in this tab. Because the two are oftentimes interwoven and go hand in hand, I put character desire as another second major important point about the character. These are the two biggest points about a character, in my opinion, that set your story going and compel you to write even when you don't have many ideas. The quote from Art of Character, "Desire puts a character in motion," I thought would be very good to get you writing in this section of the template. So a character has to need or want something. So you can write about as much or as little as you want in this section, but I would suggest getting very clear in 1 or 2 sentences what the character's main desire is. And there can be more details in how you interpret that. We'll talk a lot more about this, but for the purpose of character, I felt this tab was sufficient. The positive and negative traits are a little bit like superficial details, but I like jotting those out separately, basically to make sure that my characters are not too similar. So you can use these tabs to take notes and then compare the different characters. And maybe they are similar to make a point, or they're different to make a point, but making sure that the different traits that each of the characters has says something different about them. Secrets probably are in a similar vein to emotional wound and character desire because they also keep a story going. Like they said in the Art of Character, secrets automatically provide suspense, and I threw that up there so that to get writers thinking about what type of secrets each character is going to have and how that can be not given away immediately in the story, but teased out until the last possible moment. I thought this was important to take note of and to try to come up with something creative in this section, so I added it. And then we have the dialogue tag. What dialogue tags go with the character? Sketch out scenes of dialogue, choose dialogue tags that say something about the character. I wrote a few notes here that I would like to use if I'm going into mental deep dive on how my characters think. I tend not to do this in real life when I'm sketching out characters for work, but I think dialogue is something that a lot of people struggle with, and I have my own writing struggles around dialogue, so I wanted to make something a little more holistic to cover dialogue within the template. Now, the next 2 bits of the template are very deep dives, and they're beneath folders because this is what I would say is the advanced writing. So before we get into those, I'll just cover the last 2 and then we'll get into the deep dives. This is where you keep track of events that happen to your character, timelines, and this is your character scene wish list where you brainstorm different scenes and moments you want for your character, and these are great elements of the template for the note takers rather than the brainstormers or the outliners, but of course both people can use them, and you can also duplicate the pages and have one that's for the events you want to happen and events that actually happen. All the pages can be moved around and duplicated and manipulated to your heart's content. Let's dive into psychological nature. This is where my readmes come in handy. We're going to look here at, okay, how do we use this section? We give the character's psychological world a scenic context. What does this mean? You take the themes and you visualize a scene like what you would write in a book, an essay, whatever, that paints a picture of your character's inner world and the belief around each of these words presented in this left-hand column here. So this is deep character work, like I said, and I think this may not be appropriate for short story writers, erotic novellas, so many different niches and genres and types of writing. But if you are trying to write very deep, write a novel, get ideas, explore scenes, this is great. Desire. Visualize. So we have character desire here. This is for where you put the scene down, not just the notes. So visualize a climactic scene surrounding the character's desire. Fear, putting the character in a scene where fear comes to the forefront. That's the exercise here. Courage. What is the best way for your character to show their spine? And I wrote down this quote from The Art of Character: "The measure of every act of courage is the fear it overcomes." Love and hate I put into one section because I think they can be very good emotions or states of mind to contrast in a character. This should be self-explanatory. What does the character love? What does the character hate? I put a couple sentences of reference underneath each one to get you thinking about the question as it pertains to character in a different different way. And these questions and thoughts are again from The Art of Character. So the shame, write about your character's greatest shame. There is a difference between guilt and shame. So now you want to write about the character's guilt, which is more about when you do something that you know to be wrong. Then forgiveness, put the character in a situation where they have to give or perhaps deny forgiveness. This will depend on your story, who the character is, etc. Then we have the failure. How does your character respond to failure? Do they get back up? Do they let it knock them down? What is your character's moment of greatest success and pride? Then we have how does your character relate to religion and spirituality? This tab is typically pretty irrelevant to the types of stories that I write, so I would skip this one a lot, but I would definitely not skip food. Exploring the character's relationship to food can definitely say a lot about the character. And then death, again, self-explanatory. These two, they're very important to human society and the human condition, so you can get really deep into the psychological nature of your character with those questions. There's far less explaining in the section of the sociological nature. It's a similar idea. You want to contextualize the character within the themes on the left-hand side. Those are mostly blank, so I'll just quickly explain. Contextualize them within their family. Are they the eldest, the middle child, twins, single mother, single father, married? That type of thing. Where do they fit in their family? What is their attitude towards marriage and a spouse? So if your character, let's say, is divorced 3 times and cynical about marriage, you could write a scene demonstrating that maybe she turns down an offer from the perfect guy because of that cynicism, because she only sees the negative about him. So we would get that idea from that scene. How does their name fit into the broader context of their world? Their socioeconomic class, their political convictions, their work, their career, education, geography, home, and the last tab, tribe, which I put a little explanation in because I think it required that. So a tribe is who they connect with in the story. Who are their people within the book? So in Harry Potter, this could be what Gryffindor was to Hermione, Ron, and Harry. In a sports romance, this may be the school football team. In a mafia romance, this may be the mob. In Star Trek, it could be the Starship Enterprise. Now you may notice I don't have antagonist written here. We're gonna just say like opponent. You can call these whatever you want. Double click and you will be able to change the names to be whatever you want. You can I just put these here to organize everything, but it should be simple to move things around and change this to your heart's content. I'm gonna remove this photo so that this is blank again. And this is essentially a tour of the template. Be sure to download the Scrivener template in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. I will be trying to upload a little bit more and a little bit more regularly. If you have any questions about indie publishing or videos you would like me to make or topics you're interested in about writing or all things self-publishing, please let me know in the comment section down below. Again, I hope to be making videos more regularly, and hopefully I will be able to announce some sort of schedule soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!